Now, let's also extend a hand here to the coach. It's James Young. Look, Donnie writes out here, it's Joe Ranieri. We love to talk to the coach when we're talking NBA, particularly with Bronny James. But before we get there, you were working a lot over the past couple of days, Coach. How are we feeling today?
I'm tired. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like it was a lot going through this. Luckily, I made it through. But about 3 cups of coffee later, I'm good. But I think I'm gonna crash about 1 o'clock.
Now, Coach, one of the worst kept secrets of this draft was we knew for months at this point, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers wanted Bronny James because you wanted to keep your superstar player LeBron James happy, but we didn't know where Bronny James was going to go. Thought process behind some might have thought, Coach, he might go 17 overall. We thought that was nonsense. The Lakers actually picked a very good player at 17 to help that team. But the question was, where was Bronny going to go with the Lakers? Would they be able to hold their pick? Was there going to be a market for Bronny James and teams have to trade up? And as it turned out yesterday, while we started to watch round number 2, word got around that Rich Paul was saying, don't you draft this guy because if you do, outside of the Lakers, he's going to play in Australia. Let's start there with the news that was breaking as round number 2 was there, where we were getting word that don't you dare take Bronny. He's destined for Los Angeles.
I mean, what a move. I mean, hey, listen, part of me was hoping that, honestly, at 54, Boston, just to mess with the whole, like, Lakers Celtics drive, we were like, you know what? We're going to send this kid to Pearl, Australia. We'll take Bronny James at 54 and watch what happens. But then I started to really think about it, guys, and it was a shrewd move by Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, JJ Redick, Rob Pelinka, LeBron James, and everyone involved. It was a setup. Basically, you don't work the guy out anywhere else besides there in Phoenix, just to kind of set the market, right? And then you have the fact that the Lakers never felt threatened enough to move up in the draft because right when the second round started, if anybody even had an inkling of trying to do it, Rich Paul shut the whole thing down again. And if you really think about it, this is deeper, guys, than Bronny. This is Clutch Sports overall. They control a lot of the big name players in the NBA. So simply put, if you screwed over Rich Paul for Bronny, you were screwing yourself out of all the clients at Clutch Sports. Think about the sit down that took place, I think, guys, in a winter or spring, where Leon Rose, Worldwide West, had to have a sit down with Rich Paul to squash the CAA Clutch Sports beef just in case the Knicks wanted to trade for someone. So there's definitely levels to this. Rich Paul played chess. We all played checkers. I thought someone was going to trade up. But at the end of the day, Rich Paul shut the whole thing down.
Going to be real interesting to see how J.J. Redick, first-time head coach, is going to have to maneuver and deal with this Bronny and King here as the season moves on. Because, Coach, what is the upside for this kid here this year? I mean, even the future, what kind of NBA player are we looking at here at this point?
Well, I do think defensively he's ready. I think he can guard, even though he's only about 6'2", he's secretly strong. He can guard at the point guard spot. I do think he's a sneaky playmaker. The problem with Bronny is right there, the 36.6 field goal shooting percentage. He is not a strong shooter. So to me, it's one of the things where let's see if he's better in the pros in college. I know Chris Brinkley, the renowned trainer, obviously dropped the video, I think last night this morning, showing Bronny knocking down shots in a workout. Guys, I train kids all the time. It's very easy for me to take a 1 hour workout and clip 30 seconds and make any kid look like a WNBA All-Star when I train girls or an NBA All-Star when I train boys. Yeah, make 3 shots in a row. Clip, clip, clip. There you go. Well, what about the other, 59 minutes and 30 seconds of the workout? Now, he's got to improve the jump shot. That is the key. JJ Redick's in a tough spot. But is he? Obviously, they're all talked about it. Bronny will be at the end of the bench, but I'm sure we'll have the Griffey Sr., Griffey Jr. moment when Bronny throws a lob to LeBron or Bron throws it to Bronny, and that's going to be on the highlight reel for basically ever.
Now, if we take a look at the situation overall, right? Because Bronny goes to LA, we thought that was going to take place. But I always thought the interesting part of it was like the dynamic of Bronny James getting better as a basketball player in the NBA. Coach, you know as well as I do, a guy that's drafted 55th overall usually may not even make that roster, but be sent to the G League. And that's the part I'm going to bring up. The evolution of an NBA player is you don't get better, Coach, unless you play. You can have all the practice time you want. You can have your father, who LeBron James might be the best basketball player of all time. But at the same time, you need to be getting those runs in. So talk about the Lakers here, because I know he's only going to play on a one-way contract, which means the NBA. How does Bronny James get better next year if he doesn't go to the G League?
You better hope that they surround Bronny and LeBron with an all-star staff. And this is where the skill development coach really comes into play. There's going to be late night sessions. Maybe there's going to have to be some concessions of Bronny going to El Segundo, California. The last time I heard the term El Segundo is when the Tribe Called Quest said, I left my wallet in El Segundo. I didn't even know it was really a real place until again last night when I looked it up. So listen, maybe you have to send Bronny out a little bit. But to me, it's about the skill development, and it's about really, can you really try and hit a home run? Second round, you either do two things. You take a project and you hope you hit a home run, or you take a guy that went to college 3-4 years, more of a ready-made product, may not be able to be a star, but can just give you minutes in the NBA.
Yeah, it's the whole thing was an interesting situation that we're probably not going to see all that much again until another superstar who's playing in the league has his son play in the league. But I got to tell you, that price point at plus 100 for him to be drafted to the Lakers at the FanDuel Sportsbook, the minus 145s, I did take it. And I felt to myself, I really missed an opportunity. Didn't we always think he was going to the Lakers? And I just couldn't pull more of a trigger on that. Still won. Not going to be upset about that at all. Round number 2. Let's handicap that next. What actually happened yesterday? We'll be right back. NBA day number 2. That second round moved along. And yes, we were talking Bronny James. Where was he going to go? But it seemed like an absolute foregone conclusion that he was going to be a Los Angeles Laker. So obviously we'll have some more conversation on this. Donnie right side, Joe Ranieri, and the coach, James Young, right here in the middle. But let me ask you this question, because again, we love to handicap things, and it just seems like, Coach, it was so easy for him to go to the Lakers. Now, the bets across the board at FanDuel were if he gets drafted to the Lakers. And sometimes us handicappers going, what's that worst-case scenario that just might happen? Answer me this, Coach, because during round number 2, the Lakers had the 55th overall pick. We figured Bronny James was going there, but it was so strong that Bronny was to the Lakers. I thought, could the Lakers actually pick at 55 and not take Bronny James and then just get him as an unrestricted, undrafted free agent at that point? Did that ever cross your mind, Coach, that Bronny might not get drafted but still wind up with the Lakers?
Like this much. But then there's the whole, if you looked at the James family and the celebration and the emotion of Bronny, like they had that camera ready. They probably turned the camera on like right about when Boston was about to make the pick. They weren't having that thing on all afternoon, all evening, like every other draft prospect. They waited for Boston are about to select, hey, turn the camera on. We're about to record right now. That's basically what they did. So at the end of the day, it was something about him being drafted. Could the Lakers have waited as undrafted free agent and done it? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, they wanted to have the ceremony for Bronny that he gets drafted. I wonder now, like, how old is Bryce James? Like, could LeBron stay around for like 4 or 5 more years to do this again in like 2029? I don't know.
Yeah, well, he might own the Lakers by that point.
Oh, he's 17.
So
2026. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, anything is possible with LeBron James in LA. The second round started. There was a lot of talk about Filipowski still being on the board. Toronto's on the clock, and they don't go Filipowski. They go Mogbo there out of San Fran to Toronto here. What stood out to you here about Filipowski falling to Utah, essentially?
I'm not getting into the whole Mormon older girlfriend TMZ. That is above my pay grade. But when you look at Flip, there are things about Flip that are a little bit concerning, right? At 6'11", he's not. I don't think he is tough enough to bang and be a 5. Is he athletic enough to guard 4s? How do you play him in coverage? But then you look at it and you're like, he went to Utah, and minus the Mormon thing aside, he's Kelly Olynyk. Like, he's literally Kelly Olynyk. And Kelly Olynyk just got traded last year from Utah to Toronto. So they got a guy that is a cerebral player, pretty decent in the low post, willing passer, can shoot it a little bit. So to me, Flip at that point for Utah, I mean, I thought maybe a team that would be more of a contender that needs a backup big would go for Flip. But at the end of the day, he's sitting there at the top of round 2, and you're Utah, you got to take him.
If we were looking at that second round as a whole, and I guess Bronny James is always going to get much of the gusto here when we're talking about it, but were there a couple picks that you looked at that said, you know what, I really like this pick for a certain franchise?
I love Tyler Kolek to the Knicks. And
too.
Tyler Kolek is just, he wins. He wins. And please don't make people think that he's going to be him. Kind of reminds me of Brunson a little bit, like coming out of Nova. Like, oh, we don't know if he's good enough. We don't know if he's quick enough. But he wins. He plays hard. He battles for every possession. He is a perfect guy to fit into that locker room. And I think that is huge. I thought the Knicks, honestly, had a great draft if the guy wasn't French. Like, if the guy was French, I'm like, wait, what? But if you look at getting Kolek, right, and you look at a guy like McCullough, who the Knicks had liked, who's that Tom Thibodeau kind of Josh Hart light kind of player, defends, rebounds for his size, runs the floor, tough. And then Harporty, the kid out of Germany, had 6'11", strong rebounder, good passer. You close your eyes and like, that sounds a lot like Isaiah Hartenstein right there, if you think about it. So the Knicks had a great job in the second round. I think Johnny Furphy, where he went, was fantastic. I like Pell Larson, and at the end of the day, I'm going to say it. Whatever the Miami Heat do always seems to work. So when they took Larson, I'm like, of course. Watch this guy be an all-star in 3 years.
You're right about that. And also, sometimes the NBA just working overtime here. And by the way, I think we're here to stay. Round number 1 used to be condensed to round number 1 and round number 2 on day number 1 or day number 1. Now we have a day number 2. I think that's going to be here to stay. If we could make it through this draft with this type of talent for 2 days, good luck in the future. It should be a good time all the way around. Let's talk about some of those rookies and where they wind up next year and how they perform right here on the Early Line. Oh, yes, it's the Early Line right here on a Friday morning. And next week, as we stated, will be July and free agency. But before we get there, so many more hot topics to hit here. The coach, James Young, has joined myself and also Joe Ranieri to talk about some of these topics. Now, we'll get on-court fits next year to take a look at where these guys fit in. But let me ask you this, Coach. If we're just looking at the players at the top end of that draft, the Sars, the Richichets, Castle, and Shepard, can you give me, even before they hit the court, who figures to be a perfect fit for that organization and maybe even a fit that you're like, you know what? I don't know how well this is going to work out.
I absolutely love Stephon Castle going to San Antonio. Here's a guy at a point of attack that is strong offensively off the bounce. I think he's a sneaky good playmaker. Didn't have to be a playmaker much at UConn, but look at the way he was in the Final Four, how he elevated his game, and wherever he needed to do, he did. But then on a defensive end of the floor, this is a San Antonio Spurs team that needs help in the backcourt. I know Devin Vassell could score, but Trey Jones is not the long-term solution. So you go get a guy with his length and his defensive tenacity on that young Spurs team with Wemby, both of them being about the same age, and you allow those two guys to grow. I think Stephon Castle is going to be absolutely fantastic. Surprisingly, the one that I think I don't know about the most, to me, honestly, is Reed Shepard. I think he's going to be a really good pro. But now you got to figure it out in Houston, right? You're not trading Van Vliet. He just got there. Are you moving Jalen Green? You have Cam Whitmore. You got all these guards. You know, what are you going to do here? You have Tari Eason as a small forward, who I think is underrated, right? I thought for me, the better play is I don't know how Şengün defends fives. I would have went Klingon at the 5, moved Şengün to the 4 because he's such a skilled passer, especially at the high post top of the key area. Hopefully he can extend his range up to the 3-point line and try and play that way. And if you want to go big boy ball, put Jabari Smith at the 3, who's a good 3-point shooter and a sneaky good defender. That's where I would have went. But I guess Houston decided to go a completely different way.
So those are some interesting numbers on the odds, Coach, for the Rookie of the Year. There's a couple of guys down at the bottom of that board at 20-1 that It seems like some value there with Dillingham and Klingon here to pull down this award, mostly because they're probably going to get a lot of action this year.
Well, obviously with Portland, they're going to try and move Robert Williams, who just can't stay healthy, and DeAndre Ayton, who has never been the nomination, even though he's talked about it at will. But to me, Zach Edey was the guy I looked at, right? And I think he was 20-1 after the draft. And he got his price sliced in half in a day. Reason being, listen, he's shown he can play big minutes in the NCAA tournament, right? In the Final Four, the guy basically never came off the floor. If you look at it, if Zach Edey gets 24 minutes a night, he's going to get you 8-9 rebounds, and he's probably going to get you 13, 14 points because you have the shooter in Desmond Bain, you have Ja driving a basket, you obviously have Jaren Jackson Jr. stretching the floor. So to me, he's in that dunk spot, and I just think in the NBA at 7'4", guys, are you going to double team him or are you going to play him straight up? So to me, I look at Zach Edey as being someone I look at. Now, you brought up someone very interesting at 20-1, and that's Rob Dillingham. Simply put, he could be the best pure scorer in the draft. And I'm going to lump in Rob in with Minnesota. What they did getting Rob and Terrence Shannon Jr. was absolute gold. Those two are electric. They're great in transition. They're great defensively. And now a team that has a starting lineup of Conley and McDaniels, Towns, Gobert, and it plays slow, can flip it completely with the second group and go Dillingham, Shannon Jr., Slow-Mo Anderson, who can play a point forward, and then Naz Reid. I thought that's absolutely fantastic. And think about the end of the game that a team like Minnesota could go with Shannon Jr. and Dillingham in a three-guard lineup down the stretch of games if you want to score. That's a problem for teams. Rob Dillingham's going to score. He's got a little bit of that Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford, go get a bucket at will. And there's not a lot of guys in this draft, guys, that are going to score in double figures. Rob Dillingham can make a case for winning Rookie of the Year coming off the bench.
Yeah, it's actually a great handicapping market because so many times you see that clear-cut number one pick that you expect to be the Rookie of the Year, a la a Victor Wembanyama. We don't have that this year. It's actually 10 guys at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now at 20-1 or less to win Rookie of the Year. So if you are handicapping this market appropriately, you can make some pretty good money because the favorite is not minus 140. The favorite is a 5-1 price on SAR. We'll see how that plays out. But the WNBA last night, Coach, was absolutely popping. 4 games on the card, and the Aces look like they're turning their season around. 9-6 after a victory over the Sky, 95-83 on the road. Asia Wilson, 31-6, but also still a good night by Angel Reese in the double-doubles market. She continues to be successful there. But the Aces look like they're getting it together, Coach.
Yeah, listen, simply put, Chelsea Gray is back. The point guard is back. And you're going to be, well, Coach, she only gave you 8 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. No. Everybody's in their spot now, right? Chelsea Gray is the point guard. Jackie Young moves to the 2 where she could be really effective in scoring, got 22 last night. Kelsey Plum becomes that shooter at the 3. And obviously you have Asia Wilson at the 4. She gets you 31-6. They are as close to whole again as possible. I was honestly shocked that Reese got the double-double because I thought that they were going to keep her off the boards, but she got off to a great start. I think she got 4 or 5 rebounds in the first quarter, kind of carried the way. But still, a good performance by a Chicago Sky team being in that game. Guys, these teams, the Fever, the Sky, they're starting to play a little bit better as their young players are getting acclimated to the league.
Suns almost blew it last night, Coach. Hard to believe the Mystics didn't actually get it done, but it went to overtime, and then they ended up squeaking by. But once again, the Sun is proven, hey, they are going to be in the conversation when it's all said and done, Coach. Are they not? That was impressive on the road not to get caught by the Mystics.
Well, they were getting blown out early, down by 11 points in the first quarter. I took the team total under, 71.5 for the Mystics. that thing was dead and gone by the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
I don't even have to look at it anymore. But the Suns showed that they can win a game a different way, which is with their offense. I will say this. If you look closely at their record, Joe, it is very much inflated. Look at their record. I know. 14-3. There are 3 losses, right? At Seattle, top-notch team. Home, New York, top-notch team. At Vegas, top-notch team. Go look at the rest of the schedule. Even I know they beat the Minnesota Lynx, but that was at home. So to me, look at that a little bit carefully with Connecticut Sun. I don't think they're on the level of New York. I don't think they're on the level of Las Vegas. And you question the way they're playing, even though they lost last night, are they on the level of the Minnesota Lynx, who had a little bit of a hangover after winning the Commissioner's Cup at the Barclays?
Fever Storm last night. You take a look at that final, 89-77. Caitlin Clark had 15, 6, and 7. But how about this? A double-digit lead at the half by the Storm, fueled by Jewel Lloyd's 34 points in that game. 2 things. I liked what I saw from the Storm last night, but also, what are we thinking about the Fever now, stumbling a little bit?
Well, this is the hard part of their road trip, right? They won their first game right at the Mystics. They lost Chicago, and then obviously they lose last night. This is going to be a little bit of a problem coming up the stretch here until they get back home, because now they got to go to Phoenix tomorrow. That's probably a loss. Then they got to go to Vegas. That's definitely a loss. Then they got to come home for New York. That's a loss. So a team that played better, as now his schedule's gotten harder, this could be a sort of a losing streak for the Indiana Fever.
Here we go. 4 games last night on that card, entertaining all the way throughout. But now we put the NBA, guess you could say regular season, in the books, because now we turn it over to free agency next week, which the coach, James Young, is going to be on this network and breaking it all down for the people. Take a fade away for the public here into the break.